I know Imamov and Khamzat kind of don't want to fight each other. I'm not really excited for that fight. Not a lot of people are, but the Strickland fight, I believe I faced Strickland. In the striking, he definitely beats Khamzat for sure. Khamzat, a problem to deal with when he has you on your back. We've seen that many times. With Strickland, what he does brilliantly, I took Strickland down, I think 7 times. The way he gets up to hold him down is incredibly hard. At Extreme Couture, where they train, they specialize in that cage vision and getting back to his feet. And Strickland's a lot stronger than people might think. I think he has a very good chance in that fight.
Do you think we'll need extra security for Chimaev versus Strickland? Absolutely. I gotta be honest, I don't know if I trust those two enough to put them together before the fight. Because I think they might start fighting. They seem to hate each other and despise each other. And those things are what fights are built on. Those are the things that fights are built on, is bad blood, heat, a true dislike for someone. Sean don't necessarily like anybody, which makes him as fun as anyone to watch. But Khamzat just wants to smash people. Smash. Beat them up, take them down, overwhelm them to the point that they can't do anything.
The main event is the fight that people have been waiting for a long time. Strickland looked incredible in his last performance, and, you know, how much security do you think we're going to need from Chimaev?
Quite a lot, Danny. You need to hire some extra people because Sean Strickland, as we know, the man's a maniac.
Sean Strickland throws a lot of shots at Khamzat, as does Khamzat. I would imagine Khamzat a lot more motivated going into this fight, considering the things that Sean has said about him and their history. And Dana White joked about the fact that they might need a little more security, and I don't think that's the worst idea in the world. I'm not upset that Sean is getting this shot. He does have a win over Imavov, and it was a short notice win for him, and he was moving up to 205. Did that come into play? I don't know. Ultimately, if we're being 100% honest, I think what came into play is that this is a bigger fight, and it sells more, and a hell of a lot more people.
I thought Chimaev lost that fight.
What?
He won the first round. Look at the tape. He won the first round, lost the second and third, didn't get more takedowns. Got stuffed up and got punched in the face more. So I definitely thought Usman won. That's a 170-pounder that's coming off the couch. Literally, he's not training. He's not living that life. You know. Now I know he went up to 185 and did some big things, but I don't think he beats Strickland. I don't think so.
What? That is a wild take.
I'll bet.
Yo, that's a wild take.
I'm dumping the house on Strickland on that one.
That's a wild take.
I'm gonna put
really?
like 100 bands, and I don't even think Chimaev fights him because they've trained a lot.
This is a wild take.
You'll see my I'm fucking prize picks. I put up 100 bands of my own money. I'm gonna go whap. That's how confident I am. Strickland beats him.
Dude, that would be huge for his legacy if he beats a guy like Khamzat.
Very deserving, but I guess they are taking into consideration the fact that Sean Strickland has a win over Nasty Namavov. You know, a lot of people were trashing Sean Strickland about his fighting ability before the Anthony Hernandez fight, including Nasruddin Namavov as well. He was trashing Strickland, saying this guy's complete trash, this guy's garbage. And I even put a tweet out saying, this guy beat you on a week's notice. You know, Strickland has some solid wins, and they're definitely coming into play here. Plus, the fact that these two are probably going to have one of the best pre-fight press conferences in recent UFC history is also definitely coming into play here. I would not be surprised if Paramount has a pair of scissors on the cord to Sean Strickland's microphone at this press conference, because I know for a fact he is going to go absolutely crazy at Khamzat Chimaev. He's been saying so much about him. Terrorist this, terrorist that. He's sure, the press conference may be better than
The entire MMA world is about to witness the most brutal collision of styles we've seen in years, and nobody can agree on who survives when Sean Strickland's relentless pressure meets Khamzat Chimaev's terrifying grappling dominance. This isn't just another title fight. This is two fighters who genuinely hate each other, have trained together, know each other's weaknesses, and are about to settle everything in the most violent way possible.
This is what I have to say is that I've always said this, Strickland is extremely tricky to hit because everyone gets into the sport, is fighting, and then everyone swings at people's heads and try to take off their heads. Strickland had this weird style of just kind of relax here and just kind of throws his hands up to kind of block and leans away to where it's very difficult for people to get to his face to hit him. As you see when he, who was it that actually caught him was Pereira. I think it was coming off of like a fake knee, and it was kind of just a, you know, Pereira has those hooks that you don't really see because his hands are so low, and it just boom, and then a straight right, boom, put him out. You know, it's a very, if you're not in a situation like that, Strickland is.
Here's what's driving everyone absolutely insane trying to predict this fight. You've got Sean Strickland, a guy who just demolished Anthony Hernandez with a body shot so brutal it folded him in half, showing the kind of clinical finishing ability that reminds you why he beat Israel Adesanya when Izzy was supposedly untouchable. Then you've got Khamzat Chimaev, still undefeated, who controlled significant portions of his championship fight against Dricus du Plessis and has steamrolled nearly every opponent the UFC has put in front of him. But here's the kicker that nobody's talking about enough. These two have history. They've trained together. They know each other's games intimately. And they've been trading verbal shots for months, with Strickland running his mouth like only he can, and Chimaev carrying that unshakable belief that he's unstoppable.
Happen. I am, of course, talking about the one and only Khamzat Chimaev taking on for the middleweight title Sean Strickland. That is correct. Sean needs no nickname. He gets called lots of names by a lot of people because he's a controversial guy. But I'll tell you what, the way that he beat Alexander Fluffy Hernandez, the way that he put a beat down on him respectfully to Fluffy, the way that he finished him with that knee to the midsection, and then, to be honest, how he handled himself on the microphone, right?
Fluffy's the definition of a man.
He deserves this shot. Of course, he lost the belt to Dricus du Plessis. How's he going to do against Khamzat Chimaev? I don't know about that. Khamzat Chimaev is ridiculous. What is he, 15-0? He's a force of nature. Of course, went to a decision with Dricus du Plessis, controlled him throughout the entirety of the fight. Yes, he was trying to...
Michael Bisping, who knows a thing or two about middleweight wars, gave Strickland massive credit for not just how he finished Hernandez, but the respect he showed afterward. That's rare for Sean, and it tells you something about his mindset right now. But then Bisping asked the question that's keeping everyone up at night. How does anyone in this division deal with Chimaev's non-stop wrestling pressure? We're talking about a fighter who hasn't just beaten everyone they've put in front of him, he's dominated them. And when he fought du Plessis for the title, he showed he can compete at the absolute highest level of this sport. The guy is a problem that nobody has figured out how to solve.
There's a backstory between Chimaev and Sean Strickland. They have trained with one another. There's a bit of shit talk. There's going to be bad blood. We know that the lead up to the fight will be goddamn insane, right? Chimaev doesn't hold back. He talks shit, but in a kind of reserved way, but like he truly believes in himself. And Sean Strickland is just going to go on the full offensive. We know that. We know that. He's going to be talking some crazy shit. Dana even joked about it on the little show that we did there. He said they're going to need extra security for that fight during the fight week, leading up to the fight, after the fight, in the fight. It's going to be a mad one because Sean Strickland doesn't hold back. And you know what? Even if you don't like the shit that he says, you have to appreciate the entertainment value that he brings to the table. And then on top of that, the performances inside the octagon. That one against Fluffy, that was a different Sean Strickland, okay? But can he stop the takedowns of Khamzat Chimaev? Because let's be honest, that...
Now here's where things get absolutely wild. According to Bisping, fight week could get so heated between these two that the UFC might need extra security just to keep them separated. Daniel Cormier was laughing about this too, because anyone who follows these fighters knows the potential for complete chaos is real. Strickland says whatever pops into his head regardless of consequences, and Chimaev carries this absolute unwavering belief in his dominance. But beyond all the drama and trash talk, Bisping believes the entire fight comes down to one critical question that will determine everything. Can Strickland actually stop Chimaev's relentless takedowns, or will he find himself on his back fighting for survival?
Izzy had just beaten Pereira.
Yeah.
So it's not like
5-0 he beat him, right? 5 rounds.
No, Izzy knocked him out.
No, I'm saying Strickland beat him. He just beat him in every round.
5 rounds and almost stopped him, I think, in the first. So I really thought that Izzy was on top of his game. Maybe going into that fight, for whatever reason, he wasn't at his best mind. But physically, he was still in his prime. I know Izzy's had his ups and downs after that. Sean beat a prime Izzy, man. So we can't ever forget that. And then I know he had a bad fight with the South African dude, the killer.
DDP?
Man.
Yeah.
DDP's another killer, bro. He's phenomenal, you know. And he had a bad showing there. But since then, I mean, I think Sean is 2-0 right now.
He beat Costa,
which
He
was
just
it
won.
wasn't the best fight. It wasn't the best showing. It was
But he
a little
won.
boring.
Yeah.
But he won convincingly. There's no doubt about it. But then when he did the Fluffy, which had a lot of hype behind him.
Jorge Masvidal stepped into this conversation with some serious fire, arguing passionately that Strickland has more than earned another shot at the belt. And his reasoning is bulletproof. Masvidal pointed directly to Strickland's absolutely dominant 5-round victory over Israel Adesanya, emphasizing that Sean didn't just squeak out a decision. He completely controlled the champion from bell to bell, dictating the pace and never letting Izzy get into his rhythm. This was when Adesanya was still in his prime and considered nearly unbeatable at middleweight. Sure, Strickland lost his title to Du Plessis in a rough night, but he's bounced back convincingly with performances that kept him right there among the division's elite. As Masvidal put it perfectly, when you ask who deserves the title shot most, it's hard to argue against the guy who already dominated the previous long-reigning champion.
So you think a guy that beats Khamzat is a guy that has good enough wrestling, but has also, like, you know, crazy striking?
Not
right?
crazy striking, but you have to be able to wrestle back in. You have to be able to get back up to your feet when you get taken down and put the pressure on him.
Okay. Yeah, that's why, you know, I didn't expect you to say that. I didn't expect you to say Strickland will be Khamzat, but I mean,
that's my take.
I gotta like kind of listen. I mean, you're the fighter, so we'll see.
But here's what Masvidal revealed that changes everything about how you need to approach Chimaev. Beating a fighter like Khamzat requires a very specific, well-rounded skill set that most fighters in this division simply don't possess. It's not just about having heavy hands or great striking. You need the wrestling defense to stuff those relentless takedowns he's shooting all night. You need the scrambling ability to get back to your feet when you do get taken down. And you need to constantly apply forward pressure both mentally and physically so he can't impose his suffocating game plan. Only fighters who can combine high-level grappling with consistent striking pressure while maintaining their output stand any real chance against Chimaev's style that has overwhelmed so many opponents already.
Guys tiptoe around Chimaev. Guys are scared of Chimaev. He has a presence. Sean Strickland said, man, I used to be in the gym with this guy. He's a punk. Ask the people that were there. Sean Strickland said, when I come into a gym, I go find the biggest, baddest dude, and that's who I spar with. When Chimaev comes in the gym, he finds the easiest opponent, takes him in the corner, and beats the hell out of him. He's a bully. He said, people were there. There is one scenario, this is Sean Strickland talking, one scenario where we did a live go, and Chimaev started with my back. So he starts in an ideal position, and Sean says, I let him choke me. He goes, but what's the point? He's already there. It was a ridiculous position. It was ridiculous that we started in that position. I let him have a choke. He said the rest of the time I ran him out of the room, and there was people that saw it. Now, I would.
Chael Sonnen dropped some absolutely fascinating insight about the intimidation factor that Chimaev brings everywhere he goes. According to what Strickland has said publicly, even in the training room, Chimaev can be completely overwhelming to the point where training partners don't want to work with him. Here's the wild part. While most elite fighters seek out the toughest sparring partners to sharpen their skills, Chimaev often picks the easiest opponent in the room, corners them against the fence, and just dominates them completely. This bully-like intensity and predatory approach is a huge part of what makes him so feared, because opponents know what's coming and still can't stop it. That kind of psychological warfare carries over into his actual fights in a major way.
It's hard to pick against Khamzat Chimaev right now. I do think Strickland has the wrestling game to make it a little bit more of a challenge. But man, it's hard to go against Khamzat Chimaev. And he's only going to be getting better as well. Now that he's a world champion, he's had a lot of time to recover, a lot of time to develop his game. 5 rounds with Dricus du Plessis, that's valuable experience. He'd never been 5 rounds. I don't think he'd ever had a 5-round fight booked. Maybe he had on some like weird circumstance, but I don't think he had. And if he did, he finished it in round 1. He'd never been 5 rounds before. That's a very good experience against a great fighter like Dricus du Plessis, who has wins over Sean Strickland. I do think Strickland's wrestling skill is better than Dricus du Plessis in terms of like his fundamentals. Now, du Plessis was the one taking down Sean Strickland in their fight, but Sean Strickland is just not the guy who's going to be shooting takedowns.
The MMA guru broke this matchup down from a technical standpoint, and honestly, it's extremely tough to pick against Chimaev right now. While Strickland definitely has the wrestling ability to make things more competitive than people expect, Chimaev keeps improving with every single fight and showing new dimensions to his game. Now with a world title around his waist, and that invaluable 5-round championship experience against du Plessis, he's only getting sharper and more dangerous. Strickland's wrestling fundamentals are solid, and he won't be an easy takedown. But here's the thing that could be crucial. He's not the type to shoot takedowns or impose his grappling on opponents. That could end up being a key factor in how this fight unfolds when they're locked in there together.
He's going to do what he always does. On the back foot, jab, see if eventually the momentum swings, he's going to start bringing that forwards a little bit and start pushing you backwards while jabbing and throwing the right hand now and then and teeping the body and doing what he does. He's mixing in some other things into his game recently with the hooks and the uppercuts, and he's letting his hands go a little bit more as he did against Anthony Hernandez. I am going to lean towards Chimaev right now.
Here's what makes this even more interesting tactically. Strickland will almost certainly stick to his tried and true strategy of staying on the back foot, using his jab to control distance, and gradually pushing forward while mixing in calculated strikes to break down his opponent over time. He's added more variety lately, with hooks and uppercuts becoming prominent weapons, as we saw in his recent performances where he looked sharper than ever. But despite all of Strickland's improvements and skills, it's incredibly hard to bet against Chimaev's relentless, constantly evolving style that seems to have an answer for everything opponents throw at him.
This is what I have to say is that Strickland is, I've always said this, Strickland is extremely tricky to hit because everyone gets into the sport, is fighting, and then everyone swings at people's heads and try to take off their heads. Strickland had this weird style of just kind of relax here and just kind of throws his hands up to kind of block and leans away to where it's very difficult for people to get to his face to hit him. As you see when he who was it that actually caught him was Pereira. I think it was coming off of like a fake knee, and it was kind of just a, you know, Pereira has those hooks that you don't really see because his hands are so low, and it just boom, and then a straight right, boom, put him out. You know, it's a very, if you're not in a situation like that, Strickland is.
Kamaru Usman highlighted something crucial that people overlook about Strickland. He's incredibly difficult to hit cleanly, and that's a huge part of his success. Strickland relaxes his hands, leans away from punches at perfect angles, and makes it very difficult for opponents to land clean shots that score or do damage. Unlike fighters who swing aggressively and leave themselves open, Strickland's unorthodox defensive style forces opponents to be incredibly precise with their timing. Only perfectly timed sequences can really penetrate his defense consistently, which adds another layer of complexity to this matchup with Chimaev, who will have to find ways to break through and land on one of the most defensively elusive fighters in the division. But here's where Usman identified a potential vulnerability in Chimaev's game that not everyone talks about. If Chimaev's primary weapon, his wrestling and takedowns, gets neutralized by strong defensive grappling, then he's forced to rely on his complete skill set across all areas. And mixing everything together seamlessly in a real championship fight under bright lights isn't always as easy as it looks in the gym. Chimaev absolutely has dangerous striking and the power to finish fights, as he showed by dropping Gilbert Burns multiple times. But relying too heavily on one primary weapon can expose gaps when you're suddenly forced to adapt and do something completely different. From the promotional side, Ariel Helwani explained why this fight generates massive hype and genuine excitement. It's absolutely fueled by their bitter rivalry and history of trading verbal shots in interviews and on social media. Chimaev will likely come into this fight more motivated than usual given everything Strickland has said about him publicly, some of which has been pretty personal and cutting. The business reality is that while Strickland's short-notice win over Imavov was impressive, the bigger factor in the UFC's decision is that this fight generates far more mainstream attention and excitement than other potential options would have. From a pay-per-view standpoint, Strickland makes this matchup far more compelling and marketable than anything else available. So there you have it, two elite fighters who know each other's games, genuinely dislike each other, and represent completely different approaches to dominating opponents. Strickland brings that relentless pressure, improved striking variety, and defensive elusiveness that's frustrated elite fighters before. Chimaev brings that suffocating wrestling, intimidation factor, and championship experience that's made him seem unstoppable. This isn't just about who wins the title. This is about which style of fighting proves superior when everything is on the line. And honestly, I think we're about to witness something special that settles this debate once and for all. So here's my question for you. Who do you think survives this collision of styles, and how do you see it playing out? Drop your detailed predictions in the comments below. Hit that like button if this breakdown helped you understand what's really at stake. Subscribe for more fight analysis, and smash that notification bell because this rivalry is about to explode in the most violent way possible.